Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I'd like to welcome you all back to Doomlink's Live Hunts, and I may as well inform you that there are only two of us playing right now. It is just myself and Yuli. My personal hope, not expectation, just hope, is that that won't remain the case for very long. It was my intention to come online around this time to re-record a previous attempt at this Doomlink's Live Hunts recording that I did earlier this morning, which I'll go into further detail about in a moment. The details obviously relating to why it is being recorded. But then I realized, well, no one's going to be playing at this time of night because this is too late for the Europeans and, well, I suppose too early for the Europeans as well. This is around the time when they wake up. Yuli is from Europe, France more specifically, and he's up early, which is why he is here, ready to play. But most people aren't that way inclined. Most people will stay up very late and then wake up in the late morning. It is early morning over there. But anyway, that's a long story. The point of the matter is, I asked if Yuli wanted to play, he said that he did, and yeah, here we are. Apparently we are starting off with G-Rank Gen Moran, which I'm perfectly comfortable doing two-man, particularly with Yuli. I don't know if Yuli is going with Awaken Greatsword or just Standard Greatsword. Obviously, I typically use the Deviljho Greatsword as an Awaken weapon, but that's not how a lot of people do it, so that might not be how Yuli's doing it. And we've got Leo, or Leo, I suppose Leo is how I would pronounce that. It's another Frenchie. Oh my god, they're all piling in. You guys are very lucky to have a room to join at this time of night. It has to be said that it makes all the difference when there is two people who are happy to play together that coordinate their session to sort of kickstart activity, because when there is a room, or rather when there is almost no one playing, no one wants to be the person to make the room and sit there with the possibility of no one joining for an extended period of time. But there is no concern when it comes to Yuli and I. Like, I was happy to just hunt two-man with him for as long as necessary, and it turned out that we didn't even need to do that. We've got a full room. One of them is Hunter rank either 69 or 49, I can't quite see from here. And the other is Hunter rank 414. Well, thanks for hunting. Bloody hell. That is definitely the... I mean, it's just funny that the person says, gotta go, because it almost suggests that the person had been here for long enough to say something like that. If you just disappeared, no one would question it. We would just think that for some reason you didn't want to be in the room and we'd move on, but... yeah, anyways, it's one of those strange things. But, regardless, I'm going to set up for Gen Moran something enjoyable. I'm going to go Hammer. Sometimes I use the Portsmark, sometimes I use the Alteos Morphexo. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to select a Stygian Zenogre weapon. That is what I would prefer. And... I do know that I've got the gun. Oh, it might be the Sword and Shield that I would want to use at this stage. Yeah, let's do that. Because I've been using the gun lance fairly frequently. Like, every time I want to use a Stygian weapon with Awaken, I usually end up with the gun lance, but I know that there's also the Sword and Shield, so I will go with that. Here we go, the standard Awaken set, Blade Master, and Stygian Sword and Shield should be rarity 9, and I ended up immediately hovering over it. What is going on? Oh, come on. Why would hell be censored? How is hell offensive? In what culture is that offensive? Even in Bible Belt America, hell is sort of a... well, maybe it is a little offensive over there, but it's a low-level swear word, perhaps. I think they say cuss word over there. I don't know what cuss is supposed to mean. Custard? I'm not sure. General Custer? I just don't know, but the point is they say that. Yeah, it's a low-level swear word, so why the fuck would it need to be censored here? Is there a standard that they're following that I'm unfamiliar with? Anyway, I really don't know how on earth we got 2 people when there is no one playing the game. That on its own was rather unusual. And then they both left before we could even hunt anything. That's truly bizarre. Makes absolutely no sense, but anyway, I can understand if one guy came online thinking he had time to play but suddenly realized he didn't, but for that to happen with 2 people is really quite unusual. Maybe Leo thought that I was AFK or something. I don't know. You'd write it out, wouldn't you? Rather than just leave immediately, so it probably wasn't that, but anyway. As for why I am re-recording this livestream, it is because I basically spent the whole of the previous livestream whinging and moaning about the community, which is... You know, the only difference between that previous livestream and the typical livestreams that I do in 3 Ultimate was that it was effectively the whole 2 hours worth of the livestream. So, I decided that maybe I'd avoid that. Maybe I'd just not bother. Saving that as a VOD. I'll tell you 2 stories from that particular session that are noteworthy. Just because, you know, most of you probably won't get to see that, so I may as well tell you the stories. One of them actually I will highlight because it was entertaining. The first one related to James. James is someone that hosts rooms in this game who is hypersensitive to any criticism of him or how he plays, and that's why he hosts rooms. It's so that he can essentially have this safe space where everyone is forced to play by his rules. That is how that guy works. And he is also... Oh shit, we need to abandon for Tavo. Tavo is here, I can't believe it. Okay. Tavo with an R. Let's redo for Tavo. We literally just started, so it would make absolutely no sense for us to continue along with this hunt. But yeah, I mean, what are the chances? Both Yuli and Tavo show here together. I mean, I suppose it's possible that it has happened in the past, but the stars have aligned, and again, there has been no coordination whatsoever between myself and Tavo. Every time Tavo and I play it is purely coincidental, like he would just happen to be here. Anyway. So yeah, James, back to James. I joined a room with him because he was literally the only option. I was going to say that he's an exceptionally bad hunter. Perhaps not exceptionally bad, he's exceptionally average. Like, he stands out among average hunters as being especially average, despite his constant and consistent play of the game, and the fact that he's hunter rank 800. Like, it's very bizarre. He just can't play the game properly. I think it's more of a lack of intellect than anything else. But yeah, I decided to play with him. And most of the hunts were okay, I suppose. But then we got to this G-rank Elatrion hunt, and it was only going to be a 3-man. And I was setting up with a heavy bowgun. And I see 2 hammers from James and the other guy that was in the room to make 3. And I thought, well, this is interesting. We'll see how this goes. And then I see that James is using the Gen Moran hammer. Now, I've never seen anyone use the Gen Moran hammer on an Elatrion, whether it be high rank, G rank, and whether it be Tri or 3 Ultimate. I've just never seen it. And the thing is, I've got nothing against unusual or unconventional strategies. I think they're fine as long as they're effective. But it got me thinking, like, I knew that water was the secondary elemental weakness while Elatrion was on land, but when I actually checked to see the amount of elemental damage that Elatrion took from water on the head, it's literally 15 points of elemental damage, which is pretty bad. Like, that's a suboptimal loadout for Elatrion. And so, considering that even with a 4-man team that's reasonably optimized, it can take as long as 15 minutes to kill a G-rank Elatrion in this game, just keep in mind he's got a lot of health. He has probably the most health of any monster in this game except for the event, Brachydios and Stygian Zinogre and all of those monsters. So I wanted an optimized team, and James didn't have an appropriate alternative. His only raw hammer outside of that had pretty much the same raw as his Gemmoran hammer, and I actually didn't ask about dragon hammers, which would have been better in the end, because at least that would deal 25 points of element on a weak point while flying, which is appropriate because if Elatrion happens to be flash bombed or bound by the Ballista Binder, that will effectively be a head opportunity while in that mode. And not only did James depart on the hunt with that suboptimal loadout, which sort of bothered me, he proceeded to basically not hit the head at all with his hammer. Most of the hunt was him not hitting the head, and it wasn't just that he was failing to take opportunities when they came, which he certainly was not capable of doing. He didn't actually know how to hammer the Elatrion at the end of the day. But it went beyond that. The monster, like, I was only sort of half watching him, and every time I saw him, he wasn't really hitting the head, and I would see him attempt to hit it and miss. It was either one of those two scenarios, and then I thought, oh, well, here we go, this is a good time to bind. It would be great if James was using a dragon hammer right about now. And then, you know, the bind takes place, monster's on the ground. What does James do? He goes and attacks the front claws instead. And I was so enraged, so just beside myself that I farcasted, typed to James pretty much exactly this. I said, I'm not playing with you, James. You are one of the worst hammer users I've ever seen. I abandoned and left the room. So needless to say, I'm probably not going to be playing with James again anytime soon. I was laughing at the time because I wanted to have maximum impact to really both piss him off and just ruin his day. But just that sort of behavior was just ridiculous, because I think we were about 8 minutes into the hunt. We hadn't had a single KO, and both of them were using a hammer, and it was just not happening. And then I see James not even hitting the head, and while the monster's down, and I lost all desire to continue hunting in that moment. So, yeah, that was the first incident. And then the second one, which was more of an encounter than an incident, was with a cheater. He was a Hunter Rank 999 cheater who walked into the room, and I had a hunch that he was cheating because he didn't just have max Zenny, he also had max resource points. So max Hunter Rank, max Zenny, max resource points. It is possible to do that legitimately, but given the number of people who do cheat in this game, I assumed that he was cheating. But I didn't assume it necessarily. I did in my mind, but I asked him. I posed it to him as a question. I said, are you a cheater? And he said yes. And he said, what did he say? He said something like, would you like me to leave then? And I said, well, that's not my decision, because I wasn't the room host, but I would like that, yes. And then the room host, who was Lilu, someone that I've played with before, said, sorry, no cheaters, please. And he said, okay, I'll leave. And he left. It was the most amicable get out of the room, you're a cheater interaction I've ever had. And I'm going to highlight that because it was just funny. I couldn't believe it, because I was not expecting things to transpire in that way. But they certainly did, and it just struck me as very odd, because if you're going to go to the trouble of cheating, why would you be so reasonable when it came time for you to be booted out of the room? If you realize to that extent that you're doing something that's unsupported by the community, then why don't you just play the game properly, and then you're not going to be faced with that sort of inconvenient scenario. What's happening? Because Nahom has been chatting a bit. Apparently he hasn't played the game in a long time. I actually don't know. He's asking if Challenger works on Gen. More specifically, does Challenger work on Gen from the beginning, or at the beginning? I would assume not. It would be interesting to see at what moments during the Gen Moran hunt Challenger would activate. Because there's no noticeable non-enraged and enraged mode for Gen. But it probably exists. Otherwise, it would be rather awkward for Challenger. They would actually give Gen Moran 2 different modes, even if they didn't exist in Tri, just so that Challenger +2 would have an effect. But I've got no idea how that would work. One would imagine that perhaps the final showdown would automatically have him enraged the whole time, but again, I do not know for sure, and it would be one of those things that would be interesting to investigate. Nahom is right when he says he hasn't played in a long time. I can tell that he's from a different sort of era of this community. He is not in a rush to depart on this hunt. Oh, he said, sorry, I didn't know you were all waiting. Well, our names were in white. You really haven't played for a long time, have you? If we're on the quest, our names are highlighted in brown or whatever color it ends up being. This guy's nuts. Yurley says that Challenger +2 doesn't work in the beginning. I don't know what that means. Maybe that means that it's not until the final showdown that it will proc. I'm going to assume that that is the meaning behind that. Oh, goodness. So we've got 2 Elatrion weapons, Longsword and Greatsword, 1 Deviljho weapon, Greatsword. Likely without an element. Oh, come on. Didn't end up... I swear to God, Kyamba. Yeah, okay. Just as a raw weapon, which is fine. 1464 damage, as I understand it, no negative affinity. Which is what would make it a competitive choice against the Serra Symmetry, but in my opinion, Serra Symmetry does win. Honestly, it does. You compare Serra Symmetry, or rather you combine Serra Symmetry with Purple Sharpness, that's quite a devastating combination, and it will end up being better than the Deviljho Greatsword. Very strangely, the Serra Symmetry just doesn't appear very often as a weapon choice in this particular community, or in this game. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's this particular community, because when I say that, that could refer to specific generations of this community. There have at least been 3 very distinct generations of the 3 Ultimate community. There was when the game first came out, and then the first 2 or 3 years of that, and then there was a second generation of sorts that lasted from, 3 or 4 years after the game came out, up until around World's release and maybe a little bit after. And then there's now, where it's just an absolute joke, and it's bordering upon a complete embarrassment at this stage, but that's alright. I can live with that. From the very beginning, it was a major downgrade from Tri. Someone took all my potions and rations. Looks like Yuli immediately realized what happened there. I don't want the first aid meds, I want the rations. Are you the hungry one? You're the hungry one, aren't you? Yes, you are. Alright. I'm not sure how that happened. Is it because you got found out or what? Anyway, it was the rations that I really wanted. It's generally a longer hunt, so I do need to recover my stamina over time. Tavo only took the binder. Well, he has escaped my ire for now. No, it was quite obvious that the perpetrator was Yuli. I'd better start shooting the cannon. But yeah, I do not use this sword and shield often enough. I think I may have only used it once on camera hitherto, which means that... Well, it's a case of me just not thinking about it as an option. I don't consider it as an option. It's not because I consider it and then decide against it. It's just not in my mind. I don't really agree with that use of Gong, but I suppose it's early enough in the hunt that it's not going to negatively impact future acts of aggression by the Gen Moran against the boat. Let's jump on before he rams the boat again. Or moves to do so anyway. I think that's the binder being used. Look, quite frankly, if these are being used liberally, with an understanding of their cooldowns, and with an understanding that if they're used in this way, it's not going to in any way negatively impact the ability to use them when we need them later on in the hunt when Jen is on the other side of the boat, then that's fine. I would personally be more hesitant because I don't know the cooldowns quite as well. It's very obvious when it is misused, but I'm not going to assume that it's been misused on this occasion. Oh god. I do not want to get... You see, I don't even know how that happened, to be honest. I do not know how that happened. That's very frustrating. Because it obviously affects my ability to deal damage when that happens. What I was expecting to go wrong there was that while I was being thrown in the air, a rock would hit me midair. That's usually how you end up falling off. But somehow, while flying through the air, I ended up landing back on Jen in a weird place. Which caused me to fall off. Whatever. Sword and Shield on Gen Moran is unusual. I do not often use it. Probably the weapon types that I use most infrequently against Gen Moran would be Sword and Shield and Hunting Horn. Even Hammer gets a decent amount of use out of me, because Hammer is one of those weapons that, oh, for goodness sake, just lost track of how much time had passed with Jen being on that side of the boat because I was thrown off. Too bad. But yeah, because Hammer is one of those weapon types that can allow for very high damage to be dealt if you're able to basically stand still and constantly throw attacks out, it's a good choice for this monster. Apparently Nahom knows what Peepo-Sad is, which is, to be honest, it's quite specific to Hunsterverse because it's a misspelling. Peepo is supposed to have 2 E's. That reads more like Peppo-Sad. So in Hunsterverse specifically, it's written that way. And it bothers me. I have my own version of the emote from a different server, one of my friend's servers, which is properly written. It's called Peepo-Sad Cat. We're talking about emotes at this stage, sorry. It's probably not lost on most people watching, but in case anyone doesn't know what in the earthly fuck I'm prating about, it is emotes. Alright, so do we have a binder or a gong? I didn't see, but I think if Tavo shows on the ballista, it must be a binder, yeah. Alright, let's get the cannon ready. So with a clear understanding of cooldown time, that was not unreasonable use of the gong and binder, which is good. That's why I was hesitant to condemn its use in that way. Again, I wouldn't have used it that way because I wouldn't have known the cooldowns and wouldn't have assumed, but yeah, well, okay, well that's one way to do it, I guess. I'll sharpen up, seeing as though I'm here, and free to do so. Ooh. See, I don't like that happening because we don't want to interrupt the opportunity to jump on the tusks. So firing the cannon and shooting the ballista at Jen while he's giving us that opportunity, in my opinion, is a really bad idea. Well, that's broken already. I should mention, and I've mentioned it before, but Stygian weapons in this game that require Awaken are very good. Perhaps not if you're failing to activate Awaken, but if you do have Awaken in effect, they're very good. I mean, look at these stats. 364 raw attack, 370 dragon, and a pretty comfortable amount of purple sharpness with sharpness +1. In terms of stats, if you're familiar with Sword and Shield stats, that's at the very high end of what you could expect in 3rd generation, very high end. Gets better than that in 4th generation, in 4 Ultimate more specifically with, for example, relic weapons. You'd be looking at, you know, low to mid 400s for inflated raw, with about the same elemental value. But by 3rd gen standards, that's very good. Ends up being... Well, what's very interesting is that despite the slight barrier to entry, which takes the form of Awaken, the Stygian weapons are very good options for dragon damage in this game, which is really refreshing because if you think about it, Deviljho and Alatreon have been the obvious choices for the 2 games that preceded this one, which is kind of boring. Both Tri and Portable Third made it so that Alatreon and Deviljho were clear choices. Gemaran not so much, because those weapons were usually outclassed by Deviljho and Deviljho and Alatreon weapons, provided we're talking about dragon weapons. Of course, some Gemaran weapons have water element. And there were some where you didn't even have an option, so if you wanted to use a dragon sword and shield, your obvious option was Alatreon, because there was no option for Deviljho, and Gemaran's sword and shield was not particularly good. It looked nice, but again, Gen Kodachi or whatever it was called was just not impressive. I've been left confused as to when I'm supposed to get off this Gemaran because we have had a binder. Is it now? Or do I have another body swing? It's now. Hopefully I can jump on the boat despite the broken tusk. Yes, I can. May as well sharpen up. But yeah, Stygian Zinogre doesn't just add extra dragon weapon options in this game. They actually very comfortably compete with the other options, which is what you want. You don't want something that's just obviously worse. That's no fun at all. Not everyone's willing to engage with Awaken, and it was so interesting to discuss it briefly with... And it was a brief discussion, we didn't go into it very deeply at all, although I would have liked to, with Baines. He mentioned Awaken, and he gave me a brief opinion on it. I think I made it very clear that I liked it a lot, but he really didn't like it at all. I can't remember precisely what the reasons were, but while I could understand his point of view, at the end of the day, it's how you make use of them. How you make use of Awakened weapons. If you don't personally find a use in them, you can take the flaws of the system and then use that as a reason to say that Awakened shouldn't exist, but if you're like me and actually has a use for Awakened weapons, I would prefer that they did exist, obviously. I'm happy to do the... Looks like there was no expectation. I was a bit early with that one. But yeah, like, if I hadn't done that, we probably would have had Gemaran biting the boat. Jeez. I don't mind being the one to do it, but I think both Tavo and Nahom were gathering, and Yurli was doing a gesture at the bow of the boat, so... yeah. It is what it is, but if I were not watching, that would have been problematic. But yeah, the situation for Awaken, in my case, is that it is all about variety and an increase in options, specifically an increase in viable options. Sometimes, particularly in Tri, this was the case, It's the same in this game with Stygian as an exception, but most of your Awaken weapons are usually worse than the non-Awaken equivalents, or I suppose your other options, the non-Awaken options. So what that means is that generally it's just not worth using them, but for me, when I get into the end game... Oh god, I misunderstood what was happening in that moment. That's alright. But, yeah, when I get into the end game and I have specific weapons that I like to use, you know, like always the same specific fire sword and shield, I like to have an Awaken option just for the variety. And so, in that sense, Awaken works very nicely for me, and it's something that I would like to stay in the series. But there are plenty of arguments for why Awaken as a system is not very good. But I enjoy it. It's just one of those things. The thing with Awaken is that there are arguments against its implementation, but I don't think that you could argue that it negatively affects the game. This is not one of those situations where Awaken exists, has a negative impact on the game, and despite that, I sort of mindlessly say, oh well, I enjoy it so it's fine. Well, I can say that I enjoy it so it's fine because it doesn't actually have a major impact on other people's experience. If people don't like it, they don't have to use it. It's just one of those things. It's not like a major game function, which is, it's something that I make very clear for people who are familiar with some of my 5th gen arguments, which are not quite as lenient towards the people who don't mind it so it's fine that it's there. I find that very weak-minded. But in the case of Awaken, it's not really a problem. Well, I think Tavo realised that there was no gong to be used. I believe the use of the gong previously, and I don't know who used it, was poor. There was a misuse of it. And Tavo realised that there was no gong, was going to try and bind, didn't have time, and yeah, that was overall pretty poor, but it is what it is. Jen rises awkwardly out of the sand, as he does in this game and no other game. Which just shows that they really did cut corners with this one. Which is, you know, one of the reasons why some people really don't like this game, but that's a whole different subject as well. Also, I don't think I did say hello to you, Palkia. Hello. Yuli is bombing the foot, which is... well, it's not too bad at all. I was thinking you were going to blow yourself up with that, but you didn't. Good for you. In fact, I have no reason to stay on this side, because that arm has been broken. I think a bit of patience will be required. We're a good team. So I don't think we want to be attacking the monster too far out. May die. Having said that though, I want to break this arm, so I shall. Sword and Shield doesn't really benefit hugely from this style of fight. It's fine, I suppose, there's nothing particularly wrong with it. Greatsword and Hammer are definitely the weapon types that benefit most. Just being able to get consistent full combos with those weapon types really does make a big difference. You'll notice just how strong those weapon types are in situations such as these. Yuli got hit from a rock from behind. Hit by a rock from behind. Of course, despite the appropriate amount of purple sharpness, considering that this is a sword and shield, you do find that you run out of purple pretty quickly, all things considered. I think Razor Sharp is definitely a good choice with sword and shield. If you were to make a Sword and Shield specific set, sharpness skills are very much recommended, which is what I typically do, but in this particular game I do not have a specific set for Sword and Shield. I just have a general use set which I have for Sword and Shield, Dual Blades, Longsword, and Switch Axe, in the form of my Abyssal Lagiacruz mixed set, which has Honed Blade, Rocksteady, and Weakness Exploit. A fairly respectable combination of skills for this particular game. Hello, Wonderlord. Fortunately, the monster is not at risk of dying outside of a carve area. Oh, we're going to get the big breath attack. So Tabo is going to counteract that with the Dragonator. And I couldn't even finish my sentence before the Dragonator was activated, thrust into the monster, and killing the monster. Dealing the final death blow. Definitely a good hunt. Any sub-20 G-rank Gem Moran hunt is a good hunt. God, look how bad the textures are. It's not a problem, because these are textures that you're not supposed to see. But you do see them, because you're carving inside the monster. This is your counter-argument to that point. So I suppose I was playing devil's advocate by saying, these are textures you're not supposed to see, but the reality is that you will see them because you go inside the giant monster and carve it. It's an example of things being designed a certain way back in Monster Hunter Tri, which was a game where you couldn't walk inside Gem Moran, and then it wasn't fixed for Portable Third and 3 Ultimate. So that's great. Actually, I'd have to double check the internal textures of Gem Moran in Portable Third. I don't remember seeing that, but it probably is there. It's probably not something I've ever really worried about or noticed particularly before today, but it is a little distracting when you see those just awful, I don't even, almost slippery looking textures. I'm sure that there is a particular word in graphic design that describes what I was talking about, where it's just a non-texture. It's almost the lack of a texture. It's like a placeholder color texture, but with, or like a, I don't know. I lack the ability to articulate the point, but it really is unpleasant to look at. And the excuse of it being inside the monster, therefore it doesn't need to have a texture, just doesn't wash. Thanks for hunting. Nahom really is something of a transient hunter. He's in and out, doesn't stick around for very long, and quite frankly, he's bloody confusing, but whatever. I'm not sure what we'll do next. Again, I do have things that I need, but what I've decided to do is make the Lagiacruz hunting horn all the way up to the Abyssal Lagiacruz hunting horn, because in the previous recording I did get a dynamo. Not the one that wasn't. Well, in the last time I did 3 Ultimate before this recording, as far as the VODs are concerned, I did get a dynamo from Abyssal Lagiacruz, and I'm going to use that for my hunting horn, or for a hunting horn. But unfortunately I do need to get some high rank Lagiacruz materials for it. Unless I don't, I mean, I know that I have to do some high rank forging, but maybe I can get the material in high rank as well, but even then I wouldn't do it. Even then. So, Lagia Horn, Lagiacruz Tail. You could probably technically get that in high rank, but I don't want to subject the team to that. Now, one thing that I did actually want to have a look at is Wyvern Fire Shot in 3 Ultimate. I'm interested in seeing what guns shoot it well and I'd like to use it. Not on really difficult hunts or hunts with really high monster health. But I'd like to see you've got that Wyvern F. You never see anyone using Wyvern Fire in this game. I randomly remembered it recently and I was actually of the opinion that it didn't exist. I genuinely didn't think that they had it in this particular game. I thought it was only in Try because I just hadn't thought about it at all and never used it, but it is in this game. And so I'd like to use it. Strangely, none of these heavy bowguns that I can forge can shoot it. How bizarre is that? Imagine having a shot type that is so infrequently compatible with these weapons that... And then to actually bring it into the game. I mean, if your decision is that it needs to be on so few weapons, why even bother? I do actually have a weapon that has it. I checked my... How bizarre is this? None of the weapons that I can forge right now shoot the fucking shot type. But one of the weapons that I do have in my possession shoots it. Which one is it? And I was concerned that the one that I had only had... Let me rephrase this. I was concerned that the one that I had in my inventory could only chamber one round, but in actual fact, that's more significant than... So what is it? The Eclipse Gambit? Really? This is the fucking bowgun that shoots Wyvern Fire? You do realize why I have concerns about that, right? It's because the Wyvern Fire shot, I'm assuming, will draw its damage as a motion value from attack. I hope that that's how it works and it's not set damage. It could be set damage. I hope that it draws its damage from the attack value of the hunter. But my concern, obviously, with the Eclipse Gambit is that it's obviously not going to receive any benefit from affinity. Because it's explosive damage, so it may actually be set damage. God, that sucks. I also want to know what skills increase the damage of it. It's possible that Bombardier does increase the damage of it, but I don't know if I've got Bombardier on any of my sets. I do have it on this set. Don't worry, I'm not actually using this. I'd like to see if the description of Bombardier includes Wyvern Fire. No, it does not. Artillery? I don't think I've got an artillery set any... No, I do have an artillery set. What am I talking about? Here we go. Let's check that. Wyvern's Fire. Now, I don't know if that refers... No, you know what? Gunlance ammo should cover Gunlance Wyvern Fire as well, right? Here's the question. Is it Wyverns, as in apostrophe S possessive, in respect of the shot type? Because if it's not... Fucking shit. When they type it out like Wyvern's Fire, it gives me... it actually makes me think that they're referring to the gun lance rather than the ammo type. I did try to do some research, you know. Oh, sorry, Baines is here. I didn't even see. I haven't been reading the chat, sorry. He's referring to me as a sexy beast, which I can appreciate. But yeah. Look, I'm not a fan of Abyssal Lagiacrus, the monster. I hate fighting him, but his weapons are amazing. But yeah, I did do some research to try and... Well, I attempted to do some research to see if Wyvern Fire, the shot type, could receive a damage boost from any armor skills, and I just wasn't coming up with any information at all. So, and part of it is that literally the shot type shares a name with the Gunlance Wyvern Fire, so I really don't know what on earth to make of it. I don't want some placebo armor skill, you know. I really don't want that. I'm going to apologize for holding up the team, but you can see that it was... Oh, jeez, we've got a Hunter rank 7. He may even have Morales as an urgent. I'm going to ask just in case. If he doesn't have his urgent quest, then let's do his key quests. Well, unless he's literally done no key quests. And there is also another prerequisite to us doing his key quests, and that is that he's got a set that is appropriate for G rank, because not everyone at Hunter rank 7 in this community is actually well geared. He seems alright, he seems okay, that is great. Now, cold cancel and heat cancel I'm not too impressed with, but compared to some of the shit that you see in Hunter rank 6 and 7, oh come on. It's a yes or no question. If you can't speak English, it's a different matter. Yuli can translate, quite frankly, like... because Yuli speaks French as a first language, but... fuck me. Like, the question is, do you have your urgent? Anyway. Oh, he can actually join up on this quest, so, alright, that's fine. I guess he's going to end up doing Morales before he gets the urgent, which in my opinion is a shame. I think that's actually sad. If you're going to do the final boss, have it be your own final boss, or at least have it as a shared experience with other people who have their urgent. It's more special that way. But instead he's going to experience Morales as just another monster. A cool monster, but certainly not as a special final boss. That's fine. I can't really control that. If he wants to play, then I'm not going to stop him. Oh, Yuli's probably going to type it out in French, just for good measure. There you go. Well, we'll see how we go. Well, he obviously doesn't have his urgent quest, otherwise he would have posted it, but that's fine, it doesn't matter. Now I need to speed up this process. I've kept them waiting for long enough already, it's getting ridiculous. I'll use the Arteos Gloralis. I do not often use a lance against Morales, so it is time. Indeed. Feline Exchanger will work very well for this hunt. Looks like Tavo is using a Gemoran weapon just after I was talking about them being substandard. Oh well. Yiduan. Oh, look at those stats. That's just icky. For something like that, Awaken Deviljho Longsword is the way to go. Such a low dragon value. Unless the sharpness is really good, that's possible. I'd have to actually check the stats. I accept it as a weapon to use with the understanding that it's an alternative to the obvious. And also it's a giant Naginata, which is very cool. But still. I suppose partially because of my Tri experience, I do have reservations about using Gen dragon weapons, because seriously, Deviljho and Elatrion weapons were so infinitely better. Almost unreasonably superior to the Gen weapons that they were almost dirty to the eye. And they were generally synonymous with people who hadn't reached, or their use was pretty much exclusive to those hunters who hadn't actually reached the end game yet. So really, I just, from my tri-play, have no desire to use those weapons. But strangely, they seem to have almost a form of novelty now in this game, because I'm seeing weapon names that I'm not familiar with because they're the G-rank versions and all of that, so... That, in a sense, does encourage me to make the Gen weapons, but you can tell it's a low priority. Been playing the game since it came out, still haven't done it, so... Yeah, I'm sure one day I will. I've definitely discussed this before, Wonderlord, but I'm happy to touch on it again. 4th Gen Fatalis is very good. I was very impressed with what they did. my first experiences with 4th Gen Fatalis in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate were a mixture of positive and negative, but the negative aspect of it had nothing to do with the monster itself, and had everything to do with the poor balancing of the game, and the rather unfortunate preferences of the community. I better get my shield out, just in case. Preferences of the community, of course, in respect of excessive mount spamming with insect glaives. The community really did have a taste for that, and it completely trivialized my first hunts against Fatalis in those games, which was a real shame. But I really had no idea what they were going to do with him. When I heard that Fatalis was going to be in 4 Ultimate, I couldn't believe it. I don't know if he was in 4, I don't think he was. I didn't hear anything about it if he was. But the idea of a monster like that being in a 4th generation game was just absurd to me at the time. Because obviously anyone who had fought Elatrion in 1st and 2nd gen would be able to take that experience, relate it to 4th gen, and say to themselves, no way, like how you could not have the same fight in 4th gen. So it was expected that it would change, and it did change. But you see, they did such a good job with it that it still felt like Fatalis in every way. He still had that element of unpredictability about him. That sense of, oh god, that's like a standard looking black dragon, and he fucking hurts, and he's destroying me, and I don't even know why I'm dead, but I'm dead. He had all of that going on. He would lumber around, and he just commanded the... oh, that was a good dragon. He commanded this sense of foreboding, because he would lumber around in this almost nondescript form. Well, with this nondescript appearance. And you weren't too sure what he was going to do, and he'd just destroy you in seconds. This is if you are unfamiliar with how he moves, obviously. I'm not saying he's going to cause that sort of problem for someone who knows how to fight him, but if it's your first time, you're filled with uncertainty. And he is genuinely difficult, and they did a very good job with that. It actually felt just the way Fatalis should have been from the beginning. He was an absolutely terrible hunt in 2nd generation, and 1st. In 1st generation, there was an excuse for it. By 2nd generation, there was no excuse. But strangely, I still hold Fatalis in affection, because in the end, it's such a unique hunt, and it was definitely an experience for everyone who played 2nd gen, of which there were many more people than those who played 1st generation Monster Hunter. I think he's falling down again. Sadly, I only have white sharpness, but that'll have to do. Dylan jumped in the water trying to reach some part of the monster there. But yeah, much like Fatalis, the head is absolutely the primary weak point of the Morales. Because it's so high up, it's difficult to get to, so you are very much rewarded for hitting it. Trying to regulate my stamina there. I'm trying to hit the crotch, the pubic region of the monster. Maybe just pelvic will do. This is a guaranteed soft spot, provided you don't have absolutely garbage sharpness anyway. This is what I call the smelter. I don't know if it's actually called the smelter, but because the item that is dropped by this is called the smelter, that's what I call it. Works well enough for me. Oh, come on! I did an advance forward maneuver into that tail swing and somehow it bypassed my shield. I would be happy to take the hit if it made any fucking sense, but it didn't, so And I actually couldn't have been more prepared for that tail swing than I was, but still took the hit, stupidly. I will be aiming for the legs here because it will contribute to a knockdown. Oh, I had best sharpen up. I can countenance a drop to white, but not blue. That's not good enough. Yes, he is a standard fantasy dragon. He does look very standard, Fatalis. He just has a few cheap moves, like, oh, you're sort of near him and in front of him, so he goes on all fours and kills you, just by going on all fours. But the thing is, it's one of those things where it's easily avoidable. You don't position yourself in that sort of way near a Fatalis, and if you do, you do so with the expectation that that might be coming from your experience with fighting Fatalis. So, you're punished for doing that. It might be a weird punishment, just the monster coming on all fours is apparently an attack, but it is. And that is part of the Fatalis charm, it's just that he's lumbering around and he kills you in so doing. But obviously things like fireballs and fire breathing was made much better with the 4th gen Fatalis. The fire breath was well done, it felt good, and I was very impressed with it. I just wish that my first experiences, like, you know, let's say my first 2 or 3 hunts with Fatalis, were not just ridiculous mount spamming. Aggressive and unrelenting spamming of mounts, which resulted in a group of 4 well-optimized hunters beating on the head of a Fatalis for pretty much the entire hunt, which would result in the hunt taking about 5 minutes, and it's pretty much a special final boss in the game. So, yeah, I wasn't very impressed by that. What I was impressed by was Super Crimson. He had his own theme, he had some very interesting attacks, and felt like a really fun hunt. I'm not a fan of Crimson Fatalis in 1st and 2nd gen at all, but I have to say he was very well done as Super Crimson in For Ultimate. My favourite attack of his is where he actually makes it so that the air directly in front of him is so hot, like he beats his wings and heats up the air directly in front of him so much that just standing in front of him will cause your health to deplete really, really fast. It's similar, I suppose, to the heat aura of Teostra, but it was a lot more epic with that particular monster. Oh, I've got 22 true armor spheres. That's certainly more than I was expecting. That was 3000 HRP, not too bad. Although I swear I get like 3000 HRP just by doing one multi-advanced quest hunt. But anyway, which are usually quite easy. Got 99 of both of those. Yeah, I don't care. You say you never understand why Super Crimson wasn't in Generations Ultimate. The reason why was because it was story related in For Ultimate. Super Crimson was specifically one of the hunts given to you by the Dundorma Elder. I got a cosmic ticket. Very good. But yeah, it was given to you by the Elder of Dundorma, and I don't actually remember the story-specific background to that hunt, but it felt like a For Ultimate thing, because you specifically got it from a quest system, that being the G-Rank Special Permit quests, that was unique to For Ultimate. So the fact that Super Crimson wasn't in Generations Ultimate was perfectly fine, A, because it felt for Ultimate specific, and also, I'm not a fan of just bringing monsters back constantly. I think that you need to give something unique to every single monster in a game to make it worthwhile going back to them. Otherwise, you may as well just play only the newest games. It makes it pointless to go back. And it's not a good thing to do that. Not at all. It's actually awful. Speaking of awful, this is an awful quest and not at all fun. I have a feeling that it will be 2 monsters together each time. Usually it's the 5 monster quests that are 1 at a time, but I think this will be 2 monsters, then another 2 monsters. If it is 2 at a time, I will be bringing my smoke bombs. I'm going to see if anyone else is bringing slime. Okay, it is 2 at a time. Yeah, Dylan is bringing Pyro Demolisher. Which, by the sounds of it, I mean, isn't that name indicative of an unupgraded Brachydios weapon? Pyro Demolisher. Maybe it's not. Let me check the name of mine. Oh no, it is the fully upgraded one. For some reason I associate the word pyro with unupgraded Brachydios weapons. Whatever. That is fully upgraded then. Now, if he's using slime, I suppose I could join in. Yuli's using Serasymmetry, which is actually the first thing that I thought to bring, but I think I'd like to bring... No, I'm not going to bring Bushido actually. I'll bring a different Brachydios weapon. What would be fun? I definitely don't have any slime greatswords, and I don't think I'd want to bring one. Oh god. Maybe I'll bring the Chrome Quietus, or however you would pronounce that. Oh wait, is this... No, this doesn't actually need high-grade earplugs anyway, and I think it does, incidentally. $750 poison, a respectable amount of raw damage. And yeah. Certainly far inferior to that of the Serasymmetry in terms of raw damage, but 750 poison. That's a lot. I just like having an ugly, basic, iron-looking greatsword like this actually dealing as much as 750 poison. It's very good. It completely changes the weapon, because if you didn't have Awaken on this weapon, it would be a very, very basic raw greatsword, far inferior to most raw greatswords in the game at G rank level. But when you add Awaken to it, it suddenly becomes a totally different weapon, with different balancing, which is great. I like that. Let's smoke bomb. Again, I do prefer having one person to take care of smoke bombs, because if you've got multiple people dropping smoke bombs, it becomes very confusing as to when I'm supposed to be dropping smoke bombs. So as I wrote there, it's actually totally counterproductive to have multiple people dropping smoke bombs, because not only does it make it less clear as to when the next one needs to be dropped, it also means that my hesitancy to go in for the attack is increased as a result of that first issue, but more than anything else, other people are taking time away from hitting the monster to drop smoke bombs, which is just not necessary if you have one person dedicated to that. It oh, I have Rocksteady, not high-grade plugs. If you have one person dedicated to it, that's only 1 out of 4 people with reduced DPS taking care of the smoke bombs. That's the best way to do it. Hello, Yells. Tick damage remains the same if that's your point, Wonderboy. It's just that this is going to proc much more frequently. I think they both saw me. If they're both facing the door, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Your only real option is to learn the ideal timing for going into the room, which I do not fucking know. That's the reality of the situation. There are too many different fucking quests. Anyway, there's nothing that you can do in the end. But now we have to fucking fight both of them at the same time. I hate this quest, I really do. I hate arena quests. Oh, Yuli wants to redo. I didn't even notice that he had left the quest. Jeez, I don't think any of us did. I certainly didn't. That is Yuli from Monsterverse, yes. I asked him if he wanted to play and he said that he did, so here we are. I play with him every now and again. In this game. He primarily plays Monster Hunter 3G. There was a period of time when... And you think... I actually think I'm going to change weapons. There was a period of time when 3G really died down in terms of activity, so Yuli started playing this game more often, which gave him an opportunity to actually build his character. So now he's a bit more willing to play this game whenever I ask him, because he's actually got a proper G-rank character to work with, which is good. I hate this quest, I really do. Again, Tabasho is offering to use a Psycho Serum to possibly calculate the positions of the monsters, but it's not an issue of distance, it's an issue of where the monster's looking, because the Brachydios was quite far away from the door, but because he was looking in that direction, he saw me. We're playing on the actual console. On the Wii U. Official Capcom service. I need to change to something else. I think the best thing to do is to change to something that can be sheathed quickly. So what I'm going to do is I will bring the Brachydios dual blades. Just standard. As opposed to, you know, Awaken Bushido. There we go. Directly go to area? You mean don't even wait for a second? Okay. I'll go straight in, it's just my concern is... Well, Yuli's gonna do the opening smoke. He seems to think that running straight in without waiting at all will be fine. You need to hesitate at least a little bit so that you can scroll to your smoke bombs. Unless you make smoke bombs literally the first thing in your inventory, which would be probably a good idea. In other words, typically if you were to sort your inventory... Are you kidding me? Didn't even give me fucking exchanger? Assholes. Getting more HRP would be one possible way to make this quest worthwhile. I do hate this quest. I do not like arena hunts, and I especially don't like arena hunts that involve multiple fucking monsters. Whether they're together or not together, because if they're not together, it's going to drag on for ages, and if they're together, it's just annoying. I actually entirely prefer to hunt monsters in their environments. That stupid, dusty fucking arena does not inspire me at all. Alright, Yuli was successful by the looks of it. Start with you. But yeah, because no one else is smoke bombing, I can comfortably go in for attacks every now and again, and obviously I'm the only one who needs to hesitate at any point. Just drop one now for good measure. By the way, the monster hitting the Brachydios, like in this case, the Duramboros hitting the Brachydios would not cause the Duramboros to see us. As long as we don't touch Brachy, we'll be okay. So you basically wait until the smoke slightly begins to dissipate, which is what happened there. I don't know how visible that would be to your eyes, but yeah. Once that smoke just begins to dissipate, I don't even think it's as long as 30 seconds. I think it's closer to 20, maybe even 15. Couldn't be a whole 30 seconds, no way. Just wait for that smoke to dissipate. I dropped one just in case because I've got the Duramboros on top of me, so if I get hit at the crucial moment, that would be pretty bad. Got two people with Mud Blight. I should be able to get in there and contribute to the Pitfall Trap, at least a little bit. I'm going to do one full combo here. Oh, we've got a paralysis as well. I do have to be careful. I'm not going to get greedy because that's when things start to go wrong. Smoke dissipating. Right, let's get the charge up. Nope, tail. I can't believe so many people getting mud blighted. It does happen every now and again, but to see it this frequently. It's an especially muddy Rust Duramboros, I suppose. Oh, for a second I thought I saw the smoke dissipating. It wasn't, but better to be safe than sorry. You get probably a full, like from the moment the smoke begins to dissipate and the moment when there is no longer any smoke at all, it's probably a period of, it's just under 5 seconds, probably closer to 3. See, I don't want to say it's 3, and I don't want to say it's 5, probably 4. Yuli has fainted. That's definitely happened. That was a very nasty position for me to be in relation to the tail while it's swinging around like that. But anyway. This will probably require all of my smoke bombs because we are starting with Rust Duramboros, who will have more health than Brachydios. Oh my god, who is the current host? You can immediately see a difference in the connection. That was really bad on my part. I completely forgot what I was doing. I'm glad that Tavo was there to drop a smoke bomb in my moment of lapsed concentration. That monster's fucking dead. I'm glad. Alright. I don't need to... I mean, actually I did consume 2 Mega Potions, so... I will go and carve some. Yuli is engaging the Brachydios. Obviously we don't have to worry about another one spawning. They spawn in pairs, so it won't be until we kill this Brachydios that the next pair will arrive. As for how slime works against Brachydios in this game, it's not too bad. In later games, Brachydios becomes quite resistant to Blast. But here, he takes a pretty decent amount of damage from slime, as I recall. He might have a bit more resistance to it, maybe, but like compared to some monsters, but it's still fine. But I do remember that Blast is pretty bad against Brachydios in 4th generation. Yes, I'll let him know for you. Oh. Head opportunity. There should be a nice quick hunt, this particular one. Again, we've got a weird host. It's probably Tavo. Tavo and I have bad connection with each other. May as well get a mega potion. Didn't need one. As it so happened. Oh, look at that. He's actually supposed to be stationary when he's doing that attack, but he slid across the ground backwards and forwards. God. Like, really, what the fuck? I did say it was supposed to be a nice quick hunt, but it has not really ended up being that. I blame the lag. Oh, fuck. And it's, when Bracky is constantly backing up like that, it is difficult to stay on target. I can't even maintain my charge level with my dual blades. Nice, I got that tiny little sliver of charge. Awesome. And now it's gone again. You dick. There's something about this particular Bracky, he doesn't want to stay still at all. More attacks like those, please. We can actually counter those, and you're not running away outside of our range of effectiveness. Look, what the fuck is that? How is anyone in front of the Brachydeo supposed to deal with that kind of lag? That's impossible. I only survived that because I was standing to the side of the monster, outside of its direct line of attack. That's just ridiculous. I'm sharpening up just for good measure. Obviously, I'm good to drop smokes for the next one. Up to 3. And I'll let them know when I'm out. Yuli's probably giving me smoke bombs, is he? Thank you for that. Alright, just need to keep an eye on the despawning of the Brachydeo. The body does have to completely disappear for the other monsters to spawn. I've positioned myself sort of in the center of the location so that we've got a little bit more freedom to select a monster if we so choose. You really didn't trust me. Alright, wow! Who are we starting with? I'd say Laggy, hey? Let's just do fucking Stygian. Fuck it. Alright. Starting with Stygian. Oh god, I'm being hit at a time when I don't want to be getting hit. Yuli's dropping a trap. Just going to build up my charge a little bit. Enough to get to full, but I'm not going to pursue further damage dealing. Dylan is happy to solo the monster while we stand around waiting to get it into the fucking trap, which is mighty good of him, but it'd be nice if he could cooperate a little better. Oh god. It's not good to see Laggy this close to us hitting a monster in the trap. I feel like he's... Oh, fucking... I mean, maybe it's easier for me to say that that was an obvious risk because I was standing back, but come on, I mean... If the monster's right there, just don't risk it. Anyway. The one good thing about this pair is that they are weak to each other. If a laggy attack hits the Stygian, that'll hurt the Stygian quite a lot. If a Stygian attack hits the laggy, that'll hurt quite a lot. So, that's one good thing. Tavo has decided to go and attack the Lagiocrus, that's fine. I'm pretty disappointed about how that ended up. It could not have been more predictable. But I suppose the temptation to keep hitting the fucking Stygian was too powerful for the team. Again, there's a Stygian. There is the Stygian absorbing. You see, I would guarantee that the attacks of the Lagiocrus would have made a big contribution to the speed at which we killed that Stygian Zynoga. Attacking the weak point. I'm glad this is the last hunt of the 4. As I said, I'm by no means a fan of these quests. Ow. That was a good spot to drop a pitfall, that's for sure. Nothing wrong with that. For optimal slime application, I am demon dancing. I was diving through that because the lower half of the body is the danger zone for that body slide. I don't really want to call it a body check, but anyway. Yeah, I was going to say that if someone dropped Tranks, that would be a successful capture for sure, and it was. But anyway. I don't know how many Mega Potions I need. Anyway, I've told Yuli that he's pro from you, Yells. It's extremely frustrating that this happens, but I can't... Obviously, I can't keep expecting my audience to inform me of this, but just for good measure, maybe one of you will remember it one day. But if I'm extra centered, like if I'm not in the fucking left corner of the bloody screen, it's not intentional, okay? Ugh, fuck me. I hate it when I'm not in the left fucking corner of the screen. It pisses me off. I forget because I want to show you guys the chat for a period, but then I want to be back in the corner during hunts. But if I'm in the middle of a conversation, setting up for a hunt, I do forget about it, and then, you know, I don't know, no one questions it. It's like, oh, that's fine. Well, he's never usually there, but he's there now. I mean, it's fine. I'm just watching the game, you know? That's frustrating. Pisses me off. Pisses me right off, because I can't adjust it in post. Whatever I record is what's recorded, and I can't change it. Anyway. Let's sell that. That looks like a great talisman, but it's not really. I'll take it because why not? That is not my first... Or is it my first? No, it's not my first Gold Crown Small, but it is the smallest that I've picked up so far. I was just taken aback by the fact that it said new, because I'm thinking, new. But then I compared the lengths. My previous best and the one that I got from this run, yes. It is my second, or at least my second, Gold Crown Small Stygian Zynoga. And this one is particularly smaller. Alright. Hello, Nat. Welcome to the live stream. Eternally pissed off by leaving myself towards the middle of the screen. from now on I need to actually withdraw whetstones from my box. I have no business having 2 whetstone stacks. I don't need any whetstones in my box. But instead of just deleting them, I'll withdraw them. For a while. Come on! I'm trying to avoid these quests. I realize that I haven't actually expressed this in the chat, but fuck me! We just got done with an arena hunt where smoke bombs were required, and now we're going to do another one? God. It gives me the same sort of physical reaction that people would get if nails were dragged across a chalkboard. Seriously. That is not gin, although that's a reasonable guess. No, that is actually just water. I would never put gin in such a large glass. That would be extreme. And I would not drink enough gin to have my cheeks puffing out and running through my teeth and all that. But Tavo Show's reaction to that quest is pretty much my reaction, to be honest. But sure. Anyway. No, Yuli is quite an amiable fellow. He's not going to force us to do the quest or anything, so... Dylan's response is hello. So, I mean, he's keeping up with the events as they're unfolding, and we're grateful to him for that. Hello to you as well, Dylan, honestly. Apparently G-rank Elatrion would be an alternative to that. So be it. Let's do G-rank Elatrion then. Fine. I'm still not too sure how to feel about Wyvern Fire Shot. I really don't know. Because I don't want to be... My concern, okay, I'll voice my concern. It is that artillery may actually only increase Wyvern Fire damage of a gun lance. May not actually increase the damage of Wyvern Fire Shot. My pensive silence previously was whether or not the skill would be grayed out if it were not able to be used by something that I had equipped. So for example, I can't really find out because I can't equip a gun with the set that uses Artillery Expert among the sets that I possess. So it is a conundrum, and look, I don't want to be in the position where I'm using Artillery Expert as some kind of placebo skill while running around with my fucking Wyvern Fire Shot. Furthermore, I don't think I want to make a set just to be shooting off Wyvern Fire Shot, because it's probably not very good. But I'd like to do it just for fun, but not to the extent where I'd want to have an actual dedicated set for it, if you know what I mean. Dylan left the room because he can't join. That's the reality. I forgot that he was Hunter Rank 7, and seemingly Yuli forgot as well. But, yeah. G-Rank Elatrion has an HR 8 requirement, and he was not able to join, so he left. And I sort of feel sorry for him, because to be honest, he shouldn't be barred from hunting with us on that basis, considering that there is nowhere else to go. I feel bad for him, but anyway. I suppose it's nice of him to just leave rather than expect us to accommodate him. He just sort of bows out, but had I not forgotten that he was HR 7, I would have brought that to Yuli's attention and recommended that we did something that he could join. Because there is no alternative room for the guy. Unless he wants to go and play solo. Do his key quest solo like a man. What is the situation? Tabasho is using Paralysis Longsword. Yuli is using... what is that? Grongigas. Which leaves me with what? I think a repeat of the previous recording attempt. Heavy Pierce Shot. That's fine. My gunner set's probably still set up for it. No, it's not. For some reason I took it upon myself to remove all of the stuff that I had in it. Alright. Pin Tuna. Huskberries as well. And Bird Wyvern Fangs. I should have the ammo that I need. Yep. We are good to go. Yeah, that's right. You were there in the previous stream. I didn't end up using it, no. And I haven't been live the whole time, if you... I'm sure you didn't assume that, but anyway. Pal Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, okay. Just in case we needed to know that this was specifically his 3 Ultimate character. This isn't his character anywhere else. This is the 3 Ultimate one. So I'm really grateful to be informed of that. In terms that do not allow for any misconception or misunderstanding. Alright. Feline Boost. Oh my god. It is a fucking repeat of the previous recording. Remember when I said that I hadn't seen anyone use the Gen Moran hammer before? Against a fucking G-rank Elatrion? Well, it's now happened twice in one day. And on both occasions, it was 2 guys with the hammer. One was Gen Moran hammer and the other was the Grongigas hammer. What is going on? And I'm using the same loadout as well as that time. So apparently we need an actual repeat of the circumstances in the recording that I don't want to upload as a VOD because it was a shit show of me going off on the community for 2 hours straight. So, yeah. So be it. Because I have actual good players that I can rely on here, namely Yuli and Tavo, I'm happy to let this guy depart with his water hammer. But honestly, I'm a little bit disappointed. A little bit. Yeah, Yells was there to witness it, actually. Going for the tail while he was down. Yeah, he was fucking useless. I refused to continue that hunt. It was bad. It was bad news. Alright. There should be a much better run than the run that we're referring to. That took place in the past. Not very long ago in the past, but it definitely happened in a time before this time, which is so unnecessary for you to say, Doomlink, but we thank you for it again. I do like to pierce down the neck of Elatrion when he does that roar after slamming his claws into the earth, but... Oh, and of course, just when I'm in the perfect position, I don't have my ammo ready. Ah! Get it! Come on! Very good. Was that a fucking mid-air KO? Wow. That is beautiful. I'm fucking highlighting that. That was tremendous. What's not quite so tremendous is to have a paralysis interrupt the KO period like that. But still, very, very good. And what has to be said as well is that I couldn't be in a better position My pierce shots have comfortable travel down the length of the body. We just succeeded in not just having me in the perfect position for pierce, but a KO out of the air, chaining into a paralysis, and then immediately chaining into a follow-up KO. Which, to say that that's masterful would almost be an understatement. Maybe that's rather appropriate. I don't think we want to go beyond that. Yuli is now apologising for having done something. I don't really think you need to apologise. Doesn't matter what you've done wrong at this stage. You've done so much right that apologies can go out the fucking window. This is just an absolute pleasure of a hunt compared to the one that I was talking about. It's like night and day. Yin and yang. Couldn't be more different. And yet we're seeing the same weapons being used just by people who are perhaps slightly more competent than the fucking Looney Tunes that I was hunting with before. Oh, God. But yeah, there's definitely a strategy associated with hammering Elatrion. You will occasionally see me do it, like, I don't always hammer Elatrion, but when I do, you can see the strategy in action. Not as smoothly as it would be if I were, doing it regularly as I used to back in Tri, but it's actually not that difficult of a skill to develop, because as long as you are more or less positioned appropriately, you will be able to make use of the super pound. Oh, what the fuck is with that reposition? Leave me alone. Ugh. Frustrating monster. Anyway, yeah, you've got a bit of leeway with positioning when you're doing a super pound, and then you've also got the positioning power of the forward advance upswing. So you combine those two things together with the large number of opportunities that are given to you to hit the head of the Elatrion. Hammering Elatrion's a very good idea, and the strategy is encouraged to be used. Very good. Try to line up with the neck a bit more. Let's not get too greedy. You can see they were all getting in there, so they all got hit. At least I think Paul got hit. He maybe avoided damage, but it looked like all three of them were getting thrown away from the monster at that point. Oh! That was the worst place for me to be when he's doing an angular charge. Actually, I don't need null berries at all. If this were Tri, however, I would need my Dragonfell berries. Firstly, because Dragonfell berries are used in that game uniquely to recover from Dragon Blight, and second of all, because I'd be getting negative affinity from Dragon Blight. Getting out of the way of the obvious fireball that was to come. There is horn number 1. The fact that it took that long to break should be a clear indication as to the amount of health that this monster has. Of course, monster parts are a proportion of the full health of the monster, so the longer it takes to break apart, or rather than, I should say it in the reverse order to what I just said, the more health the monster has, the longer it will take to break apart. So, yeah. That is the situation. Not a fan of that Elatrion. While I'm here, may as well combine for... Come on. Yes, PS3. Did I shoot through that much of my ammunition? I didn't realize that I'd gotten through all of my PS3 and was moving on to PS2 unless I actually didn't have all my ammunition after all. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't have any PS3. In which case, that's extremely confusing. I couldn't have shot all of it already. Maybe I didn't have PS3 after all. In which case, I'm fucking batshit retarded. Because I looked at my inventory not once but twice and deemed it to be fully stocked up ammunition-wise, so... That's definitely a fucking mystery. Mystery relating more to my own psychology than anything else. I'm keeping away from that fucking head maneuver. I don't trust it. I hate it when you do that attack. Especially like that. Mm. There aren't many hunts where I will bother to combine for my PS level 3 shots, but this is one of them. Another example would be Morales, but monsters with high HP that will really benefit from it. Or monsters will never benefit from dying faster because they will be dying. But monsters that will allow the hunter to substantially benefit from more shots being forged will be monsters that I'll combine these shots for, specifically because the hunt goes on for a while and does require a lot of damage to be dealt for the hunt to be completed in short order. Oh, better pierce through that fucking head. Turned it right in my direction. Yeah, it looks like I must have been exclusively shooting Pierce level 2, thinking it was Pierce level 3 for some ungodly reason. Some freakishly dumb reason. Bit outside of critical distance there. It looked good because it's piercing very cleanly through the wings, but... Oh, that's... No, that's fine, there's two of them there. If there were only one person to be able to deal the damage there, that would have been pretty bad. But sometimes with binding the Elatrion, you can't get it perfect. Well, what would you have me do, Elatrion? Why is it that every time you do the angular charge, I couldn't be in the worst? I couldn't be in a worse position. Very frustrating. Good support from teammates, I suppose. My ammo situation, while suboptimal, is workable. Although you can immediately see the reduction in Pierce travel with Pierce level 1 versus 3, as you'd expect. But it does make me sad. Pierce level 1, however, is quite good for critical distance. You can get in nice and close, and generally how it works is that more of your pierce shots will deal ideal critical damage than if you were to accurately position yourself for Pierce level 3. I wouldn't want to flinch Yurley in that moment. I'm trying to reload cancel that. Well, animation cancel the reload rather. I want to get in position to pierce down the fucking face again, but a bit too late, unfortunately. And also off target, incidentally. I do love those icicles. I do think they have some effect on the monster when they're sitting there. I don't know what it is though. I don't know if it encourages Alatreon to do more ice-related attacks or what. I don't think it's a damage booster or anything. I think it just changes the way Alatreon fights slightly. I don't know. Or maybe that was some kind of old wives' tale from the Tri days, of which there were many, by the way, as I've mentioned a few times before. There we go. KO. Oh, never mind. Sorry, I suppose it would make more sense for that to be a paralysis. I wasn't seeing any head impacts there, so... yeah, paralysis makes more sense. May only be our second paralysis, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, one single soul binder is not going to deal a huge amount of paralysis damage over a long period of time, even. If we had dual scarecrows, however, that would be a rather different situation. But the dual scarecrows deal less raw damage than the soul binder. Or soul strangler, I think it's called in the max upgrade. It's called the soul binder in Tri, I think, as the fully upgraded thing. I'm not now moving to normal. I can combine for a whole lot more pierce shots. If I had not been such an idiot, I would only now be moving on to Pierce level 1 from Pierce level 3. Or rather, Pierce level 2, after having shot Pierce level 3 from the beginning of the hunt. But no, I instead was being a complete idiot. Stamina leaves a little bit to be desired, but that's what I do to myself when I choose not to bring stamina recovery materials. One thing that I was checking before departing on the hunt, however, was whether or not I had stamina recovery materials, and I do. So if things get uncomfortable, I do have a Mega Dash juice to use, but I don't really want to waste one if the hunt is almost over. I'm a little concerned that we won't actually break both horns, but this is a good chance to get it done. Come on. Ugh. I feel like it must be close. My concern is that Tavo Show and I, particularly me, we are building up a lot of damage on the monster away from the head, which means that there is a risk of the monster dying before both horns are broken, which I would not like. I don't need anything from Alatreon. I've got plenty of Sky Swayers, but I think that if anyone perhaps did need something, it would be nice to get those horns broken. I don't want to keep aiming for the horns like I was there, however, because that will greatly decrease my pierce damage. Because it doesn't pierce nicely through the head and the critical distance is far less favourable. Just because the head is literally further away from it. It's quite high up in the air. Except when he does that. Part of the reason why I still heavy bowgun Alatreon is because I was one of the only people back in Tri who was willing to bowgun an Alatreon. For much of Monster Hunter Tri's existence, as an online game that is to say, Alatreon had a certain intimidation factor, and you just wouldn't see people gun him very often. I was one of the few, so that almost served as a form of encouragement on its own. Okay, well, I suppose we can do that. Well, I hope that didn't explode on anyone. Fortunately did not, and we also got 2 broken horns. There are only very specific times, or moments in time rather, when you can flash bomb an Alatreon in this game. Oh, that's bad. I cannot believe I didn't get hit by that. That's extraordinary. That was, however, calculated. I rolled slightly in a diagonal direction there, with the understanding that there was fire coming my way. We should be quite close to a finished hunt. Now, just to give you guys some perspective on the amount of health that this monster has, and this is the way final boss monsters should be in Monster Hunter. Very well-optimized team, and we have hit the 15-minute mark. This is your point of reference for those who did see that really garbage hunt with James and that other guy that's not going on YouTube. That fucking situation was as unreasonable as it was, because we have a very well-performing team here. You know, I'm going pure heavy damage on no specific part of the monster. We've got 2 competent hammer users, and we have paralysis support for increased damage on all 3 of those things. And we are 15 minutes into the hunt. So, yeah. It's not the sort of hunt that you want to depart on with a loadout that sucks. Pal, to be honest, is making up for the fact that he's not really using the best hammer in the world by hitting the head very consistently and well. But really, I think we would have actually managed to get it under 15 minutes if he had decided to bring a dragon hammer. So for example, a dragon hammer with about the same or very close raw damage to that of his Gem Moran hammer, so that then he could make use of the 25-point dragon damage on the head while in the thunder form, and he would obviously be able to get that damage out each time we had a flash bomb or a binder, or a binding of the monster. Because again, it's only 15 points of damage on the head from water if the monster is on land, in dragon mode, basically. Anyway, that was a pretty good hunt overall. I think we had a... No, we couldn't have had a tail cut. Oh no. Tavo Show solo cut that fucking tail. Solo-tailed. If I'm carving the tail, I want a dire tail, not a mantle, which is effectively just a scale. No, I don't want a scale from the tail. That rhymes, but it doesn't make me any happier. I got a Sky Swayer, that is my 7th. I really don't need any, I don't think. Really don't think I need any. Oh, goodness. I'll do one more hunt and then I will finish things up. We've had a good session, but I'm not really in the mood to do a super long recording tonight. It's not really late at night, fortunately. If it were, I'd probably be a little less alert. But things have been going well. Obviously, when you're hunting with people who aren't, you know, borderline retarded, and I don't use that word lightly, I mean actually deficient in the, oh god, there's a few very nasty ways I can take that sentence, but look, when you're not hunting with people like that, things go very smoothly, and it's nice to not be in that position. Yeah, Nat doesn't really speak English very well, so he may not understand this when I explain it. But the words pallium and mantle don't actually mean that they are rare items for Elatrion. The reason why they are referred to as palliums and mantles on Elatrion is actually a story-related thing. It's because occasionally on a regular monster, an exceptionally strong, tough scale is formed, or shell is formed on the monster, which becomes that rare material, a pallium or a mantle. In the case of Elatrion, all of his scales and shells and the like are exceptionally hard and strong, so they are all referred to with that terminology. That's how it works. Everything is a pallium and a mantle from that monster, which means that there is no rarity associated with it. I suppose the rarity would be the fact that you killed the Elatrion and got the materials from it. I need to double check to see. I'm pretty sure I have all weapons completed with this quest, but I'll check just for good measure. Stygian, Zenoga. Yeah, all weapons done with that one, sadly. But it does give me the freedom to choose whatever the hell I want. Yurli is suggesting 4 greatswords. Depends on what the greatsword loadout is. Oh, well, Nat understood, which is good. What is the greatsword loadout? Oh, fuck off. It doesn't have... No. Take it easy. Yuli's trying to instruct the team to use a greatsword. Guess what, Yuli? I don't want to use a greatsword without focus. Okay? It's not Monster Hunter DOS or Monster Hunter Freedom 2. Okay? Yes, focus first appeared in Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. And, yeah, I'm using the Giga Drill Lance. Yuli can be the sole greatsword user, the sole person left to suffer a greatsword without focus. I'm not doing it. It's not happening. I would instead like to use this lance, which I've never made myself before. It reminds me of that really big lance from Freedom Unite with the dragon element, actually. I think it's Dragon's Roar, something like that. Something along those lines. Okay, I don't know who did that. I think it was Tavo. I would have to say, probably not the best positioning of a bomb, given the circumstances. I don't think there's much I can say in praise of that strategy and its application. Yuli is now being thrown in the air by his hammer. Yuli has enough to deal with already. He has to stand there until Kingdom Come. Oh wait, that's referring to something in the past, not something in the future. Okay, he's, to keep it biblical, he has to stand still until the rapture to be able to get his charge off. The sharpness of my lance is pretty bad. Oh, that was a good position there, Yuli. You deserve that successful level 3 headshot on that greatsword charge. You had to really commit for that one. I'm attacking very consistently, which hopefully accounts for something. I should get a high score with this team, one would hope. Ow. Please, I have 10 nullberries. That's awfully charitable of them to give me as many as 10. That looked like a pretty good flash bomb to me, but I guess not. Yuli already has a poison weapon, but I'm going to step on his toes a little bit and throw some poison knives. Oh, for goodness sake! Really? Like, give it a fucking rest. Alright. Poison knives going out, but I'm going to wait for the stupid dragon orbs. The dragon balls. Alright, poisoned, and what else have I got hanging around? I've got a max potion, may as well use it. And I've got 3 barrel bomb large. Or 3 barrel bombs in the large size. Which are actually not that large in reality. Large compared to the small ones, perhaps, but pretty small looking if you think about it. Yuli did a good job of rolling around there for about half an hour. Alright, good run. Could have been worse. I have no doubt that it could have been worse. I don't think we got a paralysis in the end, did we? Or did we? Maybe I just missed it. Tavo's running fucking Grongigas again. Well, not to say that he was using it last time, but second time we've seen that hammer make an appearance. It's probably not the max upgrade. That would be very strong for this hunt. That was a new best score, but I don't know what my previous best was, so I don't know how much we've improved on my previous best, but that's fine. Here's my 30... No, that's actually my 40th coin. I had 2 in a stack there. 40th... No, 40, yes, 40 coins. Just trying to remember if I had 38 or 39, because I already said 39, and that messed with my memory a little bit. Or my recollection of what I had seen and what I had said, etc. Without confusing the audience any further, I will finish things up here. I do hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you next time I'm playing Monster Hunter, or perhaps something else that I feel like recording. I will bid you all farewell for now. Bye-bye.